Yo, back once again with another video, man. Yes, this one is going to be a movie review for Morbius, which I saw last night. Now, I tried to record this review a whole bunch of times, try to give my thoughts on it, and it's just not coming to me. So I'm going to try my best to do the best I can to give a concise thought on this film. And yeah, so I saw this film last night, and before I saw the film, I saw a whole bunch of comments on social media talking about this movie. I didn't even know that the movie was coming out this weekend until a couple of days ago when I saw people talking about it. But all of the comments that I read, every single thing that I saw from people who already watched the film, it was nothing positive. Everybody was pretty much dogging on this movie, talking about how terrible it was. And I was just like, yo, this movie can't be that bad. This was a movie that I was looking forward to. From the trailer, it looks pretty good. So I'm like, yo, this can't be like that bad of a movie. At its worst, it's gonna be like a mildly entertaining flick. But I just can't see it being that bad. So I had to check it out for myself. Saw it last night, and yeah, man, this movie is pretty bad. This movie is terrible. Now, I usually go into like my goods, my bads, and I pretty much wrap my review up. That's how I do all my movie reviews. But with this, man, I just can't draw anything positive from this movie. There's not one thing that I could look at in this movie and say that is the shining positive. Like, at best, like, everything in this movie is just bland and it's just dull and it's just lifeless. You know what I mean? And I guess that's perfectly fitting for the character of Morbius of himself, because he is slowly deteriorating. He is slowly dying. But this film just doesn't work, man. It just does not work. Like I said, this whole movie is just bland. It's just lifeless. And when you get to like the greater middle of the film, that's where shit just goes downhill fast, because up until that point, you know, the movie is just going. It's just going through the motions, it seems like. You know, you just go from one scene to the next, and there's really nothing that it's leading up to. Like, it's just going from scene to scene to scene, and the whole movie is just going nowhere. It's just showing Morbius, you know, through his trials and tribulations, trying to deal with the serum. And like I said, it's almost like the movie had no point. Like, it was just, it didn't even know what to do. And then in the greater middle of the movie, they inject this villain in there, and the villain is basically like Morbius 2.0. He does the exact same thing that Morbius does, and that's the villain, the end. You know what I mean? And from there, it just gets, it just crashes and burns. This movie just feels like a late 90s cheesy superhero flick. That's what this movie is. When Morbius is not doing Morbius shit, like going around slashing and flying around, zipping across the freaking screen, killing people. It's just bland. It's just dull. The dialogue is boring. And when it gets to like the Morbius parts, like the action scenes, that's when it turns into like this ultra cheesy, goofy 90s superhero flick. It's kind of a bizarre mix, but that's pretty much what this movie is from beginning to end. This is a very fast-paced movie too. Like, things just happen, and you're just like, wait, slow the hell down. Like, it's just shit that just happens. There's one chase scene in the beginning where the FBI agents are chasing Morbius, and like he's escaping up through the roof of the building that he was in, and then like out of nowhere, just Tyrese comes pointing a gun at him. I'm like, wait, how did Tyrese catch up to him that fast? Like, this dude has like superhuman capabilities. Like, this dude could just zip around, and then Tyrese just shows up just pointing a gun at him. And yeah, this film is not good at all, man. There's a lot of inconsistencies, especially towards the end, where the ending is what did it for me the most. Like, it just fell flat on its face at the end, because that was where shit didn't make any type of sense to me. Stuff that wasn't implied throughout the whole movie, and then the end, you just see shit that was like, hey, wait a minute, like, when was this like hinted at in the beginning? Like, how did this lead up to this? Like, this never happened throughout the movie, but then towards the end, it just happens out of nowhere. Like, especially with one of the characters in the movie. I'm not really going to spoil it. I should spoil it because you shouldn't even see this movie because how bad it is. But if you still want to see it, I'm not going to spoil it. But one of the characters, something happens to them. And you're just like, and I was just like, wait, how does that make any sense? There was no implication that this could happen. Like, they didn't imply throughout the movie that this could happen. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this character could be this. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And then also, too, towards the end, where you have the fight scene between the villain and Morbius, Morbius does something that the other character doesn't, even though the other character, which is the villain, is just like Morbius. He has the same abilities as Morbius. But towards the end where they're fighting, Morbius was able to do so. Now, that little part that I'm talking about, that was actually implied like in one scene in the beginning, but it wasn't really fleshed out. You just saw it in one particular scene. And you're just like, oh, okay, like they did explain that, you know, he could do this. But it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't really fleshed out, like up until like towards the end where you saw Jared Leto's character, which is Morbius, do this certain thing. And then I'm just like, okay, why can't the villain do that? Because he has the same capability. So how does Morbius get this ability, but the villain doesn't? And it's vice versa, because throughout the movie, you know, Morbius is struggling with the serum. He's trying to like cope with the serum. But he's almost like a good guy in a way, because Morbius, he needs human blood to survive. Because he injected this serum into him, he's almost like a vampire, pretty much. He needs human blood. Now, he does have like artificial blood that he created, you know, for people with certain ailments. It was like a groundbreaking technology that he developed. And he uses that to survive. But the artificial blood is not strong enough to keep him, to maintain his life. So he needs more so of the human blood, but he's trying his damnness not to kill anybody. He doesn't want to kill people. You know what I mean? So he's trying his damnness to stay alive and trying to like maintain himself, trying to adapt to his new abilities, to this new kind of like serum. But he's always struggling with it. Throughout the film, he doesn't really have a grasp on this new ability. Maybe towards the end, you could say that, yes, he does have control of this new ability. But throughout the film, he's more so struggling with it. He's like going in and out of states. He's constantly, you know, breaking down, and, you know, he'll be human for 1 minute, and then like the next 5 seconds, he'll quickly turn into, you know, the Morbius character, really like weak and really just like on the verge of death. And the villain, he's like, he was able to adapt with it more. It seemed like the villain was able to like move around, and you never seen like the villain like going back into his crippled state. He was always like upbeat. He was always high energy, always just, it seemed like he mastered the new serum. Like he was able to control himself with this new serum injected into him. And Morbius seemed like he struggled with it more. So that kind of didn't make sense to me. I'm like, wait, how is the villain able to really sustain himself, really is able to adapt and adjust to this new serum, but Morbius can't? And Morbius is the doctor. He's the one that invented the serum. The other guy, he's just a regular type of dude. He's no like doctor or anything like that. But it seemed like he was able to cope with it and, you know, bounce around and move and dance, and he was all into it. But Morbius, he was always like, okay, I'm a human 1 minute. Then 5 seconds later, he's like, twitching out and all like crawling up in the corner in the fetal position because he's on the verge of death again. So the inconsistencies with the abilities and stuff just didn't make no sense to me. And towards the end, it just falls flat. All logic goes out the window. Just shit doesn't make no sense. And that was where my end point was. Like when the ending happened, I was just like, I'm done. This movie is trash. Now, throughout watching the movie, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could see that this movie is bad. It's not really a good film at all. But, you know, for some odd reason, I was keeping up with it. You know what I mean? I wasn't bored with it. It was just going along. It was just like, you know, this is like, you know, a bad late 90s superhero film. So I'm just like, it's just bad, but it's like, I could deal with it. You know what I mean? But then when we got towards the end, I was just like, I'm done. That's it for me. You know what I mean? I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was a little bit mad. I was a little bit tight, man. I was just like, man, fuck the end credit scene. I don't even care about the end credit scene. Now, I did see the end credit scene with the Vulture and whatnot, but apparently there was another one because I was watching another review last night and they mentioned that actually the Vulture and Morbius had met up and the Vulture was talking to him and stuff like that. So it's supposed to be setting up like the Sinister Six kind of thing. But I didn't see that because I was just so mad. I just left after the first end credit scene. But I guess there's another one at the very end. I don't even care at this point. To be honest with you, Sony's been trying to, like, you know, create the Sinister Six film, even from the Amazing Spider-Man 2 days. And at this point, I don't really care for the Sinister Six anymore. I was excited about the Sinister Six when they was trying to build it up in Amazing Spider-Man 2. But at this point, man, Sony just needs to let this whole Sinister Six shit die, man. Like, just come out with more Venom films. As far as, like, Morbius, I don't know if I'm ready for another Morbius movie. I don't really care for the character anymore at this point. This whole movie just pretty much trashed my expectations, my anticipation for a future Sinister Six film. Because if they messed up on this Morbius film, I can only imagine what they will do to the Sinister Six, man. Like I said, at this point, Sony, just do away with the Sinister Six thing, man. Like, you're so inconsistent with your movies. And at least in the Spider-Man universe, I should say, that I don't want to see I don't really care for a Sinister Six film. So at the end of the day, man, would I recommend you go and see it? Not really. You're not really missing anything at all. Not really missing anything special. If you're super, super curious about this film, I would say wait until it comes out on streaming services and watch it that way. Otherwise than that, it's a skip. It's not even worth a matinee. It's not good, man. It's just a waste of time, man. And throughout the movie, while I was watching it, like I said, I was able to get through it. It was a bad movie, but to me, it wasn't that bad. But then the ending just ruined everything for me. The ending just like shitted on everything. So I was just pretty much done from there. So I'm going to wrap my review up from there. It's not my best of reviews, but I wanted to get my thoughts on this movie, this trash-ass movie. So there it is. So until my next one, man, I'm out.